Okay, let's start here. Okay, so let me start with an opening prayer and blessing, inviting in all our guardian angels and guides, the archangels, the ascended masters, the divine mother and father, and all their holy beings of light who would like to assist with this guidance for us tonight. I'm going to ask that the guidance that comes through be for our best and highest good and the best and highest good of all concerned. Okay, so where am I coming from? I like to just to share my approach. I've been really mindful the last couple years to stay offline and be present with the experience I'm having personally and with my clients. So the guidance that I'm sharing and the wisdom that I'm sharing tonight is coming from the experience of my own personal life, my own spiritual journey, as well as the patterns and the cycles that I keep repeating through the clientele that comes into the office. So I'm sharing. So if I'm speaking, to you and you're connecting with the energy, please know that most often, a lot of us, especially earth angels, caregivers, healers, the empathetic people of the world, we're kind of in the same vein and we tend to have the same experiences. Obviously not exactly the same, but in the same vein. So we have been on Mother Earth's 9-year cycle of reintegrating the energy of true love back on the planet. It started in 2017 and it will go to 2025. So we're almost done with Mother Earth's 9-year cycle of reintegrating the energy of true love back on the planet. Now, here's the thing with love. A lot of us have seen and experienced in the world, the generations, before us, there's a lot of conditional love. Do for me and I'll do for you. Don't do for me or the way that I want you to, I'm going to pull my love away. A lot of earth angels have experienced that kind of love, which activates wanting to please people and wanting to take care of them and wanting them to feel better. Earth angels, I have found, embody a beautiful, natural ability to love unconditionally. We have wide open hearts that we share generously. So prior to 2017, Earth angels struggled with overgiving, oversharing. I should say, I think that's lifelong homework for us, is how to find balance between giving and sharing. And so 2017 hit, and a lot of people started making adjustments in how they were giving and sharing, the amount of work and energy they were doing for others. And it really activated through challenge and adversity, difficulty and discomfort. It activated a collective of enough is enough. And so we have been since 2017 on this journey of making adjustments of inner work, inner healing. I wrote down some themes of the year. So 2017 started a lot of inner healing, a lot of inner work, a lot of searching for information to learn. Going through 2018, 2019, it was the year before COVID. That was the year technically in the numerology cycle to laugh and play and sing and dance. And now that I think of going back and reviewing how 2020 activated a lot for people on this planet, really just kind of bringing a lot to surface. 2019 was a year where we were innocently, unknowingly, knowing what we were in for. So 2020 was a 4 year. 2020, the year 4 represents getting back to work. So, those 18 and 19 years could have been still a lot of learning, but a lot of, joyful experiences, getting a little bit away from the inner work, where 2020 hit and it really squeezed a lot of people with their belief systems. A lot of people were alone with themselves, or they were forced to make adjustments in their family, or navigate the changes where a lot of the stuff that had been put off or ignored had come to surface. So we saw a lot of that inner work starting to surface in 2020. I was alone in my apartment with my sweetie pie dog, and I had a lot of tears. I slept a lot that year, and I really went deep into the inner work, personal work, that was really only surfaced from having that time and space. Now we come to 2021, and that was a year of change. So a lot of people on a planetary level were coming out of COVID. Well, what do things look like now? There was a lot of adjustments. There was a lot of changes, a lot of beautiful things that we've still adopted, and a lot of things that were less than ideal. So then we move into 2022, and that's where I started doing these check-ins. And 2022 was about family and friends and home and redefining what that looked like. Now we come to 2023. This year was the inner year. This year was, I found, was the year of a lot of people were, I'm trying to find the way to say it in a way. It was challenging. It was a challenging year. A lot of shadow work came up for people. People could define it as dark night of the soul. Now, here's the thing to explain that further with me personally. I have always been confident in, the work that I do, the way that I'm able to show up for people. And I've worked really hard and learned a lot to be a solid foundation in my work life. I still have a lot to learn. Obviously, we all do, and grow in my personal life. And for example, I have been in a relationship with a really wonderful guy for about 2.5 years now. And the experience I was having last year was learning, or this year was learning what a healthy partnership looks like. And it really forced me to navigate the emotions and feelings and the unhealthy aspects of the relationships I had in years past. And I really wanted to dig in because the relationship I have is worth it. And we really have to find these pockets. Sometimes we're focused on family. Sometimes we're focused on our community. Sometimes we're focused on work. Sometimes we're focused on the inner. And I think that's what a lot of people experience this year because of what the people around you were going through. It activated stuff within us. And for me personally, it wasn't anything that I was aware of until I started having big feelings and big emotions. and I mentioned, in my newsletter that I moved 3 times this year. So I moved downstairs in my office to a temporary office. Then I moved into this office. And then a few months later, I needed to leave the apartment that I was in. So through the fall, it was kind of like a mad dash to find an apartment. And some good news through it. Nick and I have officially moved in together. So we are navigating 2 people in one household and what that's going to look like. So again, a lot of presence, a lot of focus, a lot of communication. So that has been my journey. And again, with packing and moving, it brings up a lot of stuff. So this is what I mean about the 7-year being an inner year that can create a level of depression or the dark night of the soul that forces us to evolve and grow. We don't want to necessarily um, live in chaos or discomfort, but a lot of lessons hit a lot of clients this year. And what's so beautiful is that, in my experience, a lot of people were conscious of it, which a lot of earth angels, I should say, were conscious of it. They were aware of how they were feeling based on what their loved ones and their family and their friends were going through. And it was hard. Now, I have to say, I've seen that there are some men on this call. And again, this comes from my experience in listening to a lot of people. Men are going through stuff on this planet. We so desperately need healthy male leaders that can encourage. Now, here's the conundrum. I also know that it can be challenging for men to reach out for support, or ask for guidance. And here is like a tale as old as time. Now, I have sat here with a lot of female clients who, whether it be their husbands, their sons, their fathers, their bosses, their coworkers, were really struggling, most with purpose and power and with massive change. So grief was a really big thing with men this year. And again, I don't want to pigeonhole. This is kind of like a general experience, because if you have been home with somebody that you love, or you've been watching a loved one struggle, maybe this will be able to support you in a sense that, there's something happening. The challenge I have is that I'm a very feminine energy, and I navigate a lot of the feminine energy in the way I work and what I do. I don't think like a man. And so I can certainly offer support to my clients. I love the numerology, the life purpose, the mediumship work. But to have healthy mentors, counselors, and guides, I feel like a lot of maybe the men that are on this call, or a lot of the men who are interested in the spiritual avenues, they're working through their learning. And I find the best way to teach, or the best way to share, is through experience. And if you think about from 2017 to now, a lot of us had a lot of experiences. You all have lots of wisdom to share. And for the female energies, we have really been working on our inner work, our inner healing. We've been learning. And again, people, earth angels as a whole, as a collective, masculine, feminine, have all been working on like spiritual growth and development and learning, and how to navigate triggers, and what is it that we want in the world, and purpose, and just kind of understanding ourselves on a deeper level. Our parents really were in the physical world. A lot of us experienced parents who they could, provide for us, roof overhead, support us in a sense, get us through school. For some of you, they got you to make your confirmation, got you to graduate, high school. But there wasn't a lot of understanding of the emotional development of the child. And I think we're in a collective now that we're seeing this. One of the things that I wanted to share as part of that is I see earth angels on this planet now. And when I say earth angels, again, it's the caregivers, the healers, the people who are guided to service-oriented fields. It's the empathetic people. It's the highly sensitive people on the planet, the feeling people, right? I feel like our generation of earth angels right now on this planet, doesn't matter how old you are, we're talking about maybe like a soul journey here. I feel like as I look at and review my 16 years up until this point of work in this field, I feel like the earth angels are the cycle breaking generation of its time, because a lot of the work people are doing is focused around breaking cycles or being aware of the repeated patterns and cycles, whether it's your physical health, maybe it's generational health, maybe it's, making changes in how you've watched your other family members of the other generations. Maybe it is how you work and making changes. Maybe it's your relationships. We're seeing a lot of that. And there's a lot of us, even though earth angels are still the minority, there's a lot of us that are kind of underground making these changes. And I want to share this again, because if you've been in this space and have felt alone in it or lonely in it, it's something, it's to say, no pun intended, it's a soul journey for a reason. Soul is in singular, and then soul as in higher. And when I say that, I often think about Jesus, and the Buddha, and Prophet Muhammad, and these Mother Teresa. I often think about these prophets and prophetesses that came before us, who at some point needed to walk the journey alone with God, I should say, not alone, but with God, and leave, like, for example, Jesus had to leave the neighborhoods that he was in, and he had to walk. There wasn't a motorcade that was taking him from one village to the next. He really had to follow his guidance. And I think earth angels have been doing that in an energetic way, is we've just been navigating this journey. And this year seemed like it was a soul journey that we were squeezed into based on maybe the challenges or the troubles that we experienced from people around us that maybe affected us in some way. It's really challenging to support somebody or help them or guide them when they're in the don't know mind, right? When they're, what I say, not in the teachable space, and they don't know that they don't know. And earth angels carry a lot of wisdom. And I think because of the challenges people have had with loved ones or work, and just the behaviors of people that have been in an unconscious space, I think, we're such feeling people. Sometimes I say, I wish I wasn't so aware of everybody. I wish I had an ounce of, not caring. It's just not in me. And I have learned that it's up to me to protect that and love that and honor that, and then also set boundaries and give myself space when I need it. And I think this is a lot of what we're learning, is where do we lean in to comfort, support, teach, and inspire? And where do we become aware of falling into the trap of trying to fix and save and change and make better for someone who ultimately is not ready to make the changes, right? And remember, everybody's on their own journey. And, as a medium, I connect with a lot of people's loved ones. A lot of the work I do is therapeutic in a sense. I do a lot of family healing, especially with loved ones who have passed, who may have been difficult, who may have struggled, for clients that are still here who didn't necessarily get closure. And I find that, we're either going to do the work here or there, or we're going to come back again. And the thing is, I love about earth angels is you're so strong to persevere through and another thing, and another thing, and another thing. I just feel like it was almost like an ocean wave this year for people. And I know there's been a lot of people who have been weary. And if you have been supporting people who have been in that space and who have been weary, I commend you too. That's my role in being that pillar of light. And we're seeing a lot of the disgruntled energy come up. So, which again is part of the healing journey. Again, I try not to pigeonhole things as good or bad or right or wrong or positive or negative. We're all learning, and we're all in different spaces, right? So again, with men, um like the men who are still in the don't know mind, or the unconscious. And remember, we were all there at some point as well. There was a lot of addiction, there was a lot of depression, a lot of, you maybe have had loved ones pass away. There was a lot of illness, a lot of diagnoses. And for me, from my perspective, and again, this is only from my perspective, it seemed to be a lot with men. And my heart, I mean, I love men in a sense that their minds and their wit and their steadfast ability to be strong. I was saying, I have a good man, and I had a very emotional year personally, and I really was in awe of how that masculine energy was able to come in and really just ground, and really hold space for the emotions. And it really was perfect timing, because this was the year for me to go through it. I navigated a lot of grief, navigated a lot of, like I said, things that I hadn't necessarily worked through, that I didn't even know I needed to work through. And so, again, I don't want to say all men, but there are a lot of really wonderful men out there who have been steadfast, who have been the rocks that the family have leaned on. And then we have a lot of the masculine energies who are being asked to evolve and shift, to do their inner work as well. And it's not something that has been valued yet here on this planet. So I see a lot of contrasts. My life is, I've got a lot of different people in my life. So obviously I've got my spiritual community, but I also have my very, very mainstream community. And, my role as if you're into human design, I'm a projector. So I have a tendency to almost watch and observe and see patterns, and then I share what I know. And so I feel like a lot of the feminine energies of the earth angels on the planet have been really adjusting and making changes and growing. You've beautifully been setting boundaries. And then also, too, you've been loving people in their dark night, in their hard, in their hard spaces. And so many people I experienced just didn't know what to do for them, other than to love them, other than to sometimes cocoon. Sometimes some of you walked away, some people transitioned. And I feel like we're still in this reintegrating true love back on the planet, almost like it needed to come up. And for those of you who are navigating just unhealthy partnerships, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy work situations, family dynamics, I feel like we're getting an opportunity to lean back. There's a difference between writing somebody off and deciding for your own love of self, this is no longer contributing to the quality of life I'm creating for myself. I am worthy and deserving of something more nourishing. And so we've seen a lot of transitions, a lot of changes. And of course, I was raised as an Italian Catholic, right? Beautiful, beautiful family, but it was like, your family is your family, and, despite it all, have each other's back. But, there's just some cases and some situations that just weren't healthy for me. And I learned about, being taken advantage of, and where my voice was. And I think that was a lot for a lot of people this year. A lot of earth angels had a really hard time being motivated. So I heard often, I want to get motivated, but I can't get motivated. Remember, grief, the bulk of grief is the first 3 years. If we go back to 2020 and COVID, there was a lot of loss on an energetic level, on a physical level. And so after the first year, after you lose somebody or after grief, you get through the firsts and you kind of adjust to what life looks like. But as somebody goes into the second and third years after a loss, that's where the depression starts to settle in, because it's the last stage of grief, because we're coming to the acceptance of what is. We may not like it, but now it's deciding how we're going to move forward one step at a time. And that takes time. So I feel a lot of the experiences this year that people were having were directly connected to grief in a lot of ways. Grief for what was. It didn't necessarily mean a physical loss of a person or a loved one, but if we're coming out of 2020, we're coming into 2023, still navigating what life looks like. And there was a lot of physical loss. So if you've been short or hurt or angry, grief has a funny way of showing up, and it's energetically depleting. And so if I can encourage anything going into the new year, is just being mindful of the space that you're in and how you're feeling. If you need to take breaks, I think, a lot of us have grown up with go, 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 do, and we have to take care of this and we have to take care of that. And I know there was a lot of grief around the holidays this year. A lot of people's holidays look different. They've been different for a few years, and it's sometimes forcing ourselves to maintain a status quo that we just don't feel it anymore. Or maybe your family dynamics had changed. That happened a lot last year. And so now we're coming on the cusp of that. So there is this overall grief that has been processing on this planet. We've seen a lot, we've heard a lot has been revealed, and we're sensitive, right? And so this is where at the beginning of the year, I strongly encouraged you to lean on your spiritual anchors, your prayers, your meditation, your anything that nourished you, any spiritual teachers that you would listen to, but most of it all, I encouraged you to create more of that stillness and rest. I understand that was hard for me. My mind was going. I had a lot of stuff coming up, and I really turned to God a lot this year. I feel like my relationship with God has strengthened even more so, because all you can do is all you can do. And if, we've got to ride that wave of shifts and learning and understanding, remember that all takes time. We cannot, I say the spiritual journey is lifelong for a reason. We can't micromanage our soul growth. We can't manipulate it with trying to manifest something that the mind wants, because it will never be satiated, right? And so a lot of us learned that surrender and succumb to an openness of letting the light guide the way. And with that comes patience. So that's another theme that I saw a lot this year, is the patience to ride the wave, for things to work themselves out. And we could certainly force things. We could certainly try to make things happen. But I think energetically, a lot of Earth Angels were weary up until this point. So I think going to the spiritual resources that we had, or our foundations, or your spiritual philosophies, was really a wonderful anchor. For me, I'm reminded, I think I said this the beginning of last year, I'm reminded of the Rock of Salvation. And, when you build your home on the rock, it can weather all the storms. And I feel like for me personally, and maybe some of you can resonate with this, I feel like the storm came in with a vengeance. For me, as a quadruple Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Mercury, Cancerian energy, the emotions was like a tidal wave for me this year. And it was beautiful. It was hard, but it was really beautiful, because it also reminded me of how solid my foundation was on the rock. So despite the challenges, despite okay, this is happening. All right, we need to figure this out. Oh, but I wanted to, okay, here's where I'm at. And just surrendering to the current of life that was moving this year. As I review, I feel very proud. I feel very proud of the people that I have in my life who was able to support me through the challenges. I am so grateful for the ones that I love who listened to me. I spilled a lot, and I also had understood love in a way that I hadn't experienced it before, because obviously, I'm a giver. And so, to receive that, the capacity that I did in the way that I did, it was really profound and I think beautiful. So I encourage you to take pause. Maybe this weekend we are in the Cancer full moon energy. This would be a wonderful time for you to release any of those recurrent emotions. For me, I am releasing worry, fear, and doubt. Those are big ones for me personally. I am going to release those in this Cancer full moon as we move into the new year. But this would be a good time for you to surrender and really ask for God for support and guidance, how to navigate and to be able to release that. So this brings me to the 8th universal year. So 2024. Now, again, this is insight. I try not to do like predictions or like fortune telling or anything like that, because I really believe our paths are paved by the decisions we make. We have free will. I honor free will and I love free will, but also too, I understand that, the vibrations of the year we're in and the energy that we're in, especially in the 9-year cycle, it carries a vibration. And if you can have a heads up and some insight, it will give you a sense of focus of where to put your energy for 2024. So 8 universal year. The 8 typically starts to get amplified around the Chinese New Year. So the Chinese New Year is usually at the end of January, the beginning of February. That's when we start to feel it. And I also know that there are some of you, maybe more of you on this call, that are already starting to feel the 8 and the combination of the 7 and the 8. So traditionally, the 8 in numerology is connected to abundance and power and wealth and prosperity. It could be growth. It's based on the idea in the 9-year cycle that everything is in full harvest. So all the tomatoes, all the vegetables, all the fruits, all the flowers, all the herbs, everything is in full harvest. On a spiritual level, it means that the 8 universal year is usually the year where we share what we've learned in these last 7 years. So I feel like a lot of earth angels have been a beacon of light for, their friends and family, the people that they love on this planet. And I feel like through the inner work, through the growth, through the learning, through the wisdom that you have gained from, let's say, up until 2023, the last 7 full years, because of that, you may be guided next year to share what you know. I feel like a lot of us, we talk about ascension, we talk about carrying in the light. I feel like a lot of us are becoming what I'm calling, we're no longer the lampposts. On a long series of lampposts, we're now being elevated. And again, this isn't a hierarchy or better. It's a level of growth and a depth. I feel like a lot of earth angels who have been in this vein are now becoming the transformer aspect of light. So we're able to carry and hold that energy to supply it to other light workers, to other people of the light who are learning. Unfortunately, a lot of our great teachers are passing on. I mean, we've had Wayne Dyer pass on, Louise Hay pass on. We've had a lot of the spiritual mentors. We've had Thich Nhat Hanh. Who else? My brain is just like scanning here. We've had a lot of beautiful leaders who have been pivotal in our spiritual growth. I mean, I'm 44 now, so at least, from what I know of the last 20 something years. And a lot of them are retiring, or they're passing on. They're choosing to opt out and move on. And so I feel like there's like a new wave of teachers and healers. Now, I have to say, there's a lot of teachers out there now. There's a lot of, what we're calling influencers out there. But, I found that earth angels have been kept underground. We have been almost doing the work, working with people, learning, having experiences. And that, I feel like, true experience, true working with people, true like being in the thick of it is where we grow the most. I know it's the most uncomfortable because challenge and adversity and difficulty, of course, it squeezes the most, we learn the most, but we like our comfort. And so I feel like on this 9-year cycle, as we're here to reintegrate the energy of true love back on this planet, as we're elevated to what, I see it as a transformer status, it's almost like we can support or hold more light because we've learned boundaries. We've learned how to navigate our own energy, to take care of our bodies, our physical fitness, our mental and emotional health. A lot of earth angels have been strengthening in even your own wealth and prosperity. You've learned a lot. And I feel like we've been underground, almost kind of just watching and observing what's going on in the world. And so I feel like God may guide you next year to share what you know. I would strongly encourage the inquiry in stillness of God, show me the way. How may I be assistance? The challenge with the 8 energy is it can embody influence over. And so sometimes we can get lost if we're watching things that are outside of us that's saying, well, you should do this and you should do that. And this is what you need to take. And this is what you need to do. We can certainly get uplifted and almost lost, kind of chasing the tail a little bit. And I think that's one of the things I learned a lot this year is continuing to go within. There's so many times I wanted to go outside of myself. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I had support with mentors and body workers and guides, but at no point were they ever telling me, you should do this or you should do that. They were there sharing and loving. And I think that's the new way of caregiving. I think it's a new way of healing, is being a vessel for people to lean on, to share, and for us to listen, and in that respond to with them with our wisdom. And so I want to go back to influence. So we can see a lot more of that next year, because the 8 affects the entire planet. And the 7 universal year was about identity. Who am I? That can get activated even more so next year. Meaning, I keep seeing a theme that has been coming up that I think might be a theme for next year. So the 8 can embody prosperity and wealth and abundance, and what we can share our harvest. We can certainly be very generous. And then in the shadow, because every number has a shadow and a light vibration, we can also experience with the world at large what I keep seeing the theme as repeat or evolve. And I think that's a golden nugget to take with you, because growth comes from a lot of times challenge and adversity. It doesn't have to, but usually we don't know something needs to be fixed or something needs to be changed until it's like, boom, right there in our face. So the 8 is that infinity number, again, that often embodies cycles. And this could be the year that we see a lot of, are we going to repeat the cycle or are we going to evolve? We're starting to see that a little bit. Unfortunately and sadly, we still have war in this world, and we still have I'm right, you're wrong thinking, right? And it pits people against each other. And it can certainly surface again for us to, as a collective, look at things and pause in it. Am I going to react the same way, which is repeat, or am I going to evolve? Now, let me tell you, I've been really trying this year to evolve. I have been trying to learn, and I could not, I learned very early on, do it on my own. I was very well aware of the cycles and the reactions and, my personal life. And I chose to work with professionals who could navigate the whys. Why do I experience this? This keeps coming up. Why is this happening? And I most often found out that it was a thing. There was some psychology to it, or there was some learning lesson to it, or that was part of a growth in some way. And so I believe we're going to see a lot more of that next year, as a collective at large. And so Earth Angels, again, reminded that you're God personified. You're an embodiment of the light. And people might gravitate towards you. You might have an opportunity to work with people or support people who are recognizing and want to change these patterns. Maybe it's like unhealthy eating habits. Maybe it is debt. Maybe it is wanting to make changes in your work, and being able to say, okay, how can I embrace the uncertainty and the unknown to do something new? Or, like I said, are we going to continue to repeat the same patterns, ignore, and push off? So let me just check in with my notes right here. Okay, so we could see more topics focused around money, debt, materialism, greed. And we can, knowing these things, make a lot of adjustments and changes in our financial status and our financial situations. And this could be the year of making adjustments with where we're giving and sharing. More so, I think we're going to see money stuff with the world at large, maybe with government, maybe with the healthcare system, maybe the education system, maybe with the planetary system of wealth. I've also seen a lot of people, in a sense, getting really upset about the wealth imbalance on this planet, and people are waking up to the trickery and the tactics of mass corporations, and people are lovingly making adjustments in their life, spending more time with family and kind of minimalizing. I think that's the beauty of it. So, because of what we see, we can always go within and say, okay, God, how can I make the adjustment? Where is my role in this? Right. And trying not to get consumed by all of it, because we can certainly get overwhelmed and it can really depress your energy in that space. So evolving, if you've noticed a pattern or a cycle that has come up, maybe in your relationship, or maybe with a work person, or maybe within yourself, you're noticing just a repeated pattern, just becoming aware is 90% of it. The last 10% is the change. I like to call it the last mile in the marathon. And it's where a person usually starts to lose their way a little bit. Remember, we're coming towards the end of Mother Earth's 9-year cycle of really deep, deep, deep healing on this planet again, so that we can clear out these generational unhealthy cycles and patterns and conditioning and belief systems that are no longer serving the planet. So we can see it, we can face it, we can lean into it, we can flush it out, and then evolve. And I believe next year starts that. Now, remember, a lot of people, a lot of you maybe, where you're going may not even exist yet. Where your purpose, where your life leads you may not exist yet. Remember, we're still a little weary from the last few years here. So to evolve, it would require us to pave a new pathway. And in that, that requires a understanding of self. That requires a strength of self to trust your own intuition and your own guidance. And it's not about pass or fail, good or bad, right or wrong. It's about how am I going to take steps to navigate this in a different way. And that's where the ego comes in, right? Because the ego wants to be right, or the ego wants it. And the ego is beautiful. You know, when fears and worries and doubts come up for me, it's certainly ego based. And most often for me personally, it's control and feeling out of control with things that are happening that I have no control over. And so, you know, it affects my physical body, it affects my lower back, it affects my central nervous system. And so, recognizing it this year and making healthy ways to really reach out for support for people who can support me in a different way, nourish me, was really a beautiful experience. And I think more of that next year. Now, I most often had to sit in the uncertainty and the unknown, in the doubt, and ask God, how do I navigate this? What's the pathway? Where am I going with this? Now, this, like I said, builds your relationship with the divine. Maybe you have a guide. I know a lot of you connect with the Archangel Michael or the Archangel Raphael, would be wonderful to connect with. He's the angel of healing. He's the angel of miracles. He's the angel that helps us navigate addictive tendencies, addictions, unhealthy health habits. Again, next year is the year to really work through and become stronger in those areas. We'll be faced with it. We'll be faced with, I'm starting to feel that ache already. So around Christmas time, in the emotional wave, that I have been in, I ate a lot. I don't typically, my body really can't process sugar well. And I certainly indulged this holiday season. And my body really reminded me that that is not contributing to the quality of life that I'm creating for myself. So, I'm taking this week to decompress. I'm taking this week to make some adjustments, and I have been doing a fast and really kind of sitting in prayer, reminding myself not to shame or guilt myself. And again, coming to that place of evolving, these patterns that I have, when I get overwhelmed, to procrastinate, to withdraw, to maybe get prickly or ornery. And how can I experience nourishment? How can I pave that path in a new way? So, and again, the answers are still TBD. And that's why I'm saying on the spiritual journey, we can't force something to happen. We cannot manipulate or micromanage the universe to quote unquote get what we want. Now, I can certainly say you can. Most often, the outcome isn't what we thought it was going to be, or it's not sustainable because there are other things that we have to learn. It doesn't mean that you got it wrong. It just means there's more adjustments to be made, and that where you're going, it may not exist yet. And I think that's the beauty of the harnessing the fun energy of the 8-year, the infinity energy, the abundance, the empowerment energy. We can really step into that next year. Remember, we're still on a soul journey while the collective of people on this planet are going through their stuff of the repeated patterns and the cycles. And unfortunately, I don't know about you, but I've seen lots of anger out there, and a lot of criticism and bully energy out there. And unfortunately, those people most often are in pain. Or the people are medicated, and people are full of sugar and carbs, and there's just a lot. When I think about it, sometimes it's overwhelming. And so for us earth angels to really ground in the energy and to really continue to do our inner healing work on a soul level, just maybe you're not out there with the masses. Maybe you're not on platforms where you're sharing with masses of people, but the work you're doing to learn and to grow and to be a better human being on the planet is enough. And that's why I keep saying it's a soul journey. It's not always something that everybody's going to recognize, they're going to identify with. And then what happens is, as you do this, harnessing the energy of the 8 abundance energy, as you make these adjustments for your own overall health and well-being, you then are naturally aligned to the people, places, things, and ideas that are a vibrational match to that. And I do this often in my work life. You know, when I have clients, I mean, I am so blessed, and obviously you're here for a reason, because we match, to have really beautiful people. I have met so many good people. You know, I'll have met somebody for the first time, and you know, they're leaving my office and we're blowing kisses to each other and well wishes. It feels like family. And I think that's the beauty of what's out there in this world. There are just so many really good people who don't get a chance to let that shine in the world that they live in. And so this could be a year that you start seeing or experiencing the adjustment of that alignment with people, places, things, and ideas that are more of a vibrational match. Now, there's a lot of people still going through grief. That is still something that's surfacing. You're going to feel good. And then again, anytime light expands, anything that's not a vibrational match to that needs to come up and out. And so as you're doing your work, as you're expanding, I pray that up until this point, you have had and learned some really healthy, wonderful tools to adjust, to support yourself, and to grow in the world that needs you. Hold on a second. I'm just getting distracted. Let me ground back in. I feel like I've been talking for an hour. Yep, that's about it. So let me pull back for a second. Okay, so to evolve, if you're noticing a pattern or a cycle come up, if you could take pause and listen, or really pose the inquiry quest: God, angels, divine, show me a new pathway. Show me the next steps. And I can tell you, a book will come along the way, a podcast will show up, a person that you hadn't heard of from a really long time will show up. We're really being asked to lean on the divine and being open and receptive to new ways of being that really up until this point we haven't been able to experience. I think the beauty of the spiritual community now has grown so much. Obviously there's shadow and light and everything, but it's grown so much in a way that we never were able to before. You know, I say, you know, I'm very blessed to be able to do the work that I do in the spiritual, intuitive way that I do. And as long as I pay my taxes, government leaves me alone. It's wonderful that nobody's showing up with pitchforks anymore or torches or anything like that. And unfortunately, that was the history of people who were in spiritual fields, people who were in you know, the holistic realms in lifetimes past. So we're now in such a beautiful way getting a chance to explore and navigate these beautiful energies in ways that we never have been able to before. And I think it's exciting, but you're going to need your divinity, and you're going to need your relationship with your divinity to navigate it. We're not going to be able to do it through our humanity. Our humanity is what's evolving and learning and lessons and all that stuff. Our physical bodies, you know, our physical life of our safety and our security. We could be faced with that the next year. Or teaching people about that next year, but we're really getting to spiritually grow in ways and using energy in ways that really, you know, haven't been before. So I would think that would I would think that more I want to say like energy practices. That's not the right word. I would say we may see depth in healing with the practitioners. We might see depth in healing with the spiritual practitioners who have been doing the work, at least for the last 20 years. If you have been working in service of others, and you have been learning and growing, you may be downloaded or inspired with deep insights that can really help people, but they'll be short and quick. And so I think this is where I want to reiterate the importance of stillness and silence and rest and nothingness. There's a quote that I heard earlier. It was actually on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok. I use it for, it doesn't matter. But there was a lady who popped up and she said, if the devil can't make you mean, he'll make you busy. And that struck me because I think we can get consumed with busy and too much. And yes. And in order for us to revolve and recognize the repeat, we need breaks. We need to not be busy. We certainly need to be working, and we certainly need to be dutifully, taking care of our household. But when you're getting inundated with people, things, ideas, experiences where you're constantly fixing and saving and changing and making better and making things better, and it just doesn't seem like it's getting any better, that's where you've got to take the breaks. And so that's why I always talk about the stillness, the silence, the rest, the nothingness. I need it. And that, again, that's one of my challenges with living with somebody now, is I have to adjust the way that I find stillness and silence and rest and pockets of time. And I take advantage of it when I have it. And then I very much enjoy the company when I have it, but that's learned and that's still being adjusted to. So I'm hoping that sharing these themes personally gives you some insights on where to navigate, going into next year. Now, I can also tell you there is nothing that you have to do after this. There's no work to be done. I'm not here to tell you anything that you need to do by any means. You've done enough. But what I'm here to do is plant seeds so that when life circumstances arise, you have empowered information. And I can't stress it enough to always lean back, pause, and check in with your divinity, check in with your spiritual support system, whatever that is. And I promise you, in the stillness and the silence and the nothingness, new information will arise, insights. Sometimes I get these ahas, or I've been hearing the words epiphanies. I had an epiphany, and I think it's wonderful because it's showing me that a lot of earth angels have dumped and cleared, and they've made a lot of room, and they're now starting to see things in a different way, which I think is so fascinating and so fun. And that's part of my job to say, yes, that's a thing. And okay, how are we going to navigate that and go forward? But I'm seeing that a lot more in myself as well. So when you create those pockets, it leaves room for that wise voice within you to speak. And so maybe going in next year, the first order of business is to just ask the inquiry of how can I, lighten my load? How can I go to stillness and quiet and silence and nothingness when I'm called to it? Or asking for the space, the room. Maybe it's setting up a space in your home. You don't have to. Maybe it's going out to your car. To really get a chance to listen. Again, because there's that duality, right? Certainly through the work that we're doing and evolving, it will bring in more energetic abundance. You may feel more alive. You might feel more apt to share. And we've learned up to this point on how we want to share and where we want to share. And you may experience an abundance of invitations, and you might experience abundance of ideas that might come up, right? And so this would be the year to really harness that energy. I want to check with I want to check with my book. I have a book that I want to check in with real quick. So up until this point, if you have any questions, if there's anything I've said that you want me to maybe speak more on, or clarify, if you'll put that in the comment box, I'm gonna grab my book. It's the book that shows the theme of the 8. So hold on a second. Let me grab here and then here. So I finally brought all my cards back to the office. Okay. All right. I want to pull some cards. So I don't know if some of you have this. This is an old book. But the 8. Okay. So the word this year is achievement. And the gem that can resonate this year for you would be diamond. And it says, this is the success year. It's harvest time. That which you began 8 years ago is now ready. Take your product to the market. And remember, this is for the collective. Business and all material things are yours now. Put out some effort and you'll accomplish a lot. Go after what you want. Be the executive, the manager, the organizer. Be efficient and businesslike. Be self-confident. Be honest and fair in all your dealings. Business trips are favored. This is your year to achieve, so go for it. And remember, we're talking about achievement on a spiritual and energetic level. I think that hustle culture and that boss babe idea, I think is like burning itself out, because it's setting people up for something that's unsustainable for long periods of time. So when we talk about this is the year to achieve, it really is, how can you take all the wisdom and everything that you've learned up until this point and share it? Or asking God, what can you do with it? And again, the success is how we're able to be of service for God's people who so desperately need it now in this world. So the affirmation is, I am prosperous, successful, I am the prosperous, successful executive of my world. And I think that's a beautiful way to end that, and those specific energies, and maybe take a chance to check in and to see where you're prosperous. I'm prosperous in so many ways. That's not monetarily. I'm successful in so many different ways that might not have me, on a platform with, millions of people, which people do. That's fine. As an introvert, it's just not my cup of tea. But how can you redefine these words in your life in a way that they're going to resonate with you? And again, that might take some meditation. It might take some journaling. It might take some prayer to be guided to what that means for you. And I really pray that you have the joyfulness within you, that you have the peace, that you have the love to share, because the world needs to see it. I'm reminded constantly, my license plate here in Rhode Island says heavenly. And I'm very well aware that when I am on the road, that is an example. And sometimes people on the road really test my patience. And so I find that my car and being in the car is the best place for me to learn tolerance and patience, and be reminded, that, I am an example. Obviously, it's not about being perfect, and it's not about, portraying an image that I'm not. But I also know that my license plate out there is a sign for people, and it could be a sign for their loved ones. And if I'm out there beeping my horn, acting like a loony, it's just going to give mixed messages. So again, reminding you that you're an earth angel, and your eyes just shine with God's love. And of course, we're going to get upset. Of course, we're going to get bothered. It's our humanity. But how can we show up to the world this coming year in a way that could be of service while maintaining a healthy love of self? It is imperative, it is necessary that you work on your energetic abundance first and foremost. So let's see, were there questions? Let me just look here. Nope. Oop, oop. Okay, so I'm gonna pull some cards. I'm gonna pull some cards for next year. I want to get one more deck. Sorry. Oof. So I hurt my back. Part of my growth, moving a little slow. So I want to start with pulling an angel. These are the Archangel Oracle cards. I do hope to share my wisdom more next year. I will be teaching more, God willing. There are 2 locations mentioned in my newsletter. Healing and Harmony in Chepachet is opening up a classroom space. And then there's also a place in Attleboro that I may be teaching that just opened. So I feel like, people are starting to get out again and wanting to learn and wanting to gather. So I hope to do that more. And I do hope to, be back online more. I miss connecting. Like I said, this year was a personal year for a lot of people. So Archangel, I'm going to ask, what Archangel wants to come forward to support you for the next year, 2024? What would be the most important angel to hear, see, feel, and know for next year? And again, I'm just gonna put this down a little bit. Shuffle the deck, and I'm just gonna wait for one to pop out. I think this is always like my favorite part. Okay. Oop, there's 2. So, interesting. So the first one, and I think this is a special message for some of you out there. This one might be a special message for some of you who may be watching. Okay, I'm going to share what it is. It's Angel Azrael, and the card says, "Hello from heaven." And I feel like if you've lost loved ones this year, hi Diane, if you've lost loved ones, I feel like this is them letting you know that they made it, that they're in good space, and they're encouraging you to move forward. Not let go, get over, move on, move forward, one step at a time. And maybe some of you are going to need the support for your loved ones next year. Maybe you're moving on this change, this journey, in a new way without a particular loved one. So the message here says, your loved ones in heaven are doing fine. Let go of worries and feel their loving blessings. So I feel like part of this is to remind you that your loved ones are always with you, and that they'll be with you going into the next year going forward. So if you did have a loss this year, if you did have a hard loss, please know that your loved one is here saying that they're going to go into the next year with you energetically, and they can certainly support you with signs and initials on a license plate and their birthday numbers and your birthday numbers. Of course, cardinals and hawks, those are all the base, signs for loved ones. The other card that came up is the Archangel Metatron. And the word here is prioritize. So the message says, focused on your highest priorities. I will help you get organized and motivated. That's a great way to start. And again, just saying, yes, Metatron, I invite you into my life. Assist me. Certainly, if you are still needing to clean up from the holidays, if you are preparing to go into the next year, I feel like before anything, what can you prioritize? What still needs to be wrapped up and released and surrendered into leaving into 2023? Yes, Metatron. So Metatron is one of the angels that sits closest to the throne. He sits with Melchizedek and Michael. And what's interesting is he is actually the angel that oversees every single conception on this planet. And Metatron's job is to make sure that every single human being born in this world is different. And I think that's so beautiful. So Metatron does also embody like our individualism. And if you struggle with your individualism, if you struggle with your uniqueness, if you struggle, if you feel like the black sheep, or people don't understand you, or you march to the beat of your own drum, Metatron is a really great angel to call on if you are in that space, because he can assist you and remind you of the qualities and gifts that he gifted to you when you were conceived or at conception. And I'm always humbled by that. I think it's so beautiful that he's there. And again, his card here holds like the cup and the fire, the flame, right? For me, I see it as sustenance. And so again, you can call on him also to ask you, again, going into next year, if you're elevating and you're being asked to share more, or you're asked to make adjustments in how you've been sharing and learning and growing, you can call on him for assistance. If anybody's going to school next year, Metatron's a really great angel to assist too with that. So I am also going to pull from my abundance, angels and abundance cards, of course, because next year is the year of abundance. And I'm going to ask the money angels, the abundance angels, what is the most important message the earth angels need to hear, see, feel, and know now for going forward into 2024? Again, I'm just shuffle the deck. I'm just gonna wait for one to pop out. Ooh. Again, 2. So one or the other might resonate. They're probably saying like, well, I can't just do just one. Wow, this is so awesome. So the first card says, God is your source. I love that. And again, this is part of the message I was talking about, leaning on source in stillness, right? Going to God, the divinity, angels, beings of light, how to navigate forward. So the message here says, everything you need is supplied by the infinite source of God, and your faith opens the doorway to receive. In God, there is no lack or limitation. Rather, there is plenty of abundance for all to share. I mean, so beautiful. So again, a lot of you may walk this energy. You might be the embodiment of this. You might teach people how to share. And sometimes, you might also teach people about their own abundance and actual wealth in a sense. But remember, abundance is also energetic. It's the people that we have in our life. It's to feel love overflowing and gratitude. And really, ultimately, I think is a deep, deep, deep level of peace. I think that's what God reminds us, that in him, we can find true peace in the stillness, despite the chaos that's going on around us. Always reminds me, that energy always reminds me of like Psalm 91, that God will send his armies of angels to watch over you and protect you. So the other card here for some of you, or whomever is going to watch this in the future, the other card says, face your financial fears. Bring it on. So this might be a time to maybe make some changes in debt, or kind of face some fears with money, or sometimes it's shifting unhealthy relationships or situations you're in. And a lot of times, people stay in situations because of money. So really calling on God to ask him to show you a way to navigate that. So the card says, when you are honest with yourself about fears of success or failure, they can no longer control you. Be free of hidden fears by exposing them to the light of awareness, and you'll realize that you, in fact, have nothing to fear. This is that repeat and evolve cycle I was talking about, and that every successful person has struggled with and released these self-doubts. So again, you may charge forward this year. You may make some abundance. You may also set some boundaries. You may also walk away from situations. Again, are we going to repeat or are we going to evolve? And remember, it's not something to be hyper vigilant of, because the divine will certainly make it clear to you, because you will feel, here I am again. And I encourage you to seek support. There are so many wonderful professionals out there who have been serving and working for a lot of years. I encourage you to seek out, be informed, and seek out somebody who has been working and has a history and a background of supporting, others in their area, in their expertise. They are out there, and God will certainly shine a light. So these are the abundance cards for you. And then we're going to finish up here with Oracle of the Unicorns, because I feel like we need some magic. We need some mystical magic. I love these cards. They're bold. And these are affirmations. There's a word. There's a word, and then there's some affirmations. So I'm going to ask the magical, mystical, beautiful energy of the planet of awe and wonder. What word do you want to gift the Earth Angels with? And what insights would they most benefit from? Okay, again, I'm going to shuffle the cards. Just wait for one to pop out. One or two or one. All right. This one came out hard and fast. So passion. Let's talk about passion. So this is the angel. This is the unicorn. So the card says, do what excites you. Get fired up about your life. Increase your energy levels. If this is not an abundance or 8 energy, I don't know what is. Look at that fire. So let's talk about passion. Passion comes from a level of satisfaction, and we can certainly transform anger into passion. And I think a beautiful example of that is the civil rights we have. People got angry. People are getting angry now, with the greed and the abuse of power, and, things are getting more expensive, and, packaging and product is getting less and less. We're seeing it, and a lot of people are getting angry. And the beautiful thing is we can take that anger and turn it into a passion. And when we're able to sit in that anger and lean into it and see it as fuel, as information, and we can go to that stillness, or we can go to that quiet, and we ask God, how can I transform this? This is how we've had our rights changed. This is why we have laws, that take care of people now. Women can vote. We have laws that protect people in employment. Children can no longer, in the United States, there's no longer child labor because of the laws. It's because someone got mad. Someone got upset. Somebody got angry. And instead of projecting that or letting it stew on the inside, they were able to pause and allow that frustration to transform into a passion. And I have to say, there's been a lot of frustration on this planet, a lot of feeling powerless in a sense. And so you might be inspired with lots of ideas to make shifts and change. Remember, we're each one piece of a puzzle, right? We're part of a collective, so we can't take it on all of it. But I think, again, a lot of us are here to break these generational cycles, to really evolve and grow on this planet. And it is a very unique and individual thing. So I love that we're ending this and gifting you with passion. Oh, fiery energy. Yes, bring it on. Do what excites you. Get fired up about life and increase your energy levels. That's good stuff. So I'm going to wrap up. So I'm going to close space for you because you gave me permission. I feel like I was tuned into the energy here, and obviously future people are going to watch this. And so I just want to close the space, thanking all your guardian angels and guides, the archangels, the ascended masters, the Divine Mother and Father, and all their holy beings of light that assisted with this guidance for you today. Of course, I want to ask the angel Metatron and Azrael to go forward and support you. Of course, Michael and Raphael. And I'm going to ask that any healing that was started tonight continue for as long as it needs to be done. And so it is.